Frank and Xi, this is the wave. As the US election is approaching, business leaders are closely watching whether both candidates, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, will implement strong tariff policies to protect domestic industries. Joining me now is Dr. Kirida Bhaopichitr from Thailand Development Research Institute to analyze the ramifications to Thailand's industry. So, of course, Dr. Kirida, great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me again.
Thank you for your time. So, of course, we understand that Kamala Harris and Harris, of course, their administration, they had the tariff policy to imposing of tariff on $18 billion US dollar worth of Chinese imports. So, how do you see about this kind of imposition to global supply chain and even Thailand's trade relations?
Well, I think this is a continuation from what President Trump, has implemented in 2018 in raising the tariffs, right, on Chinese imports into the U.S. So even if the Biden administration, didn't announce as much as President Trump did, but they have continued these policies. So actually, the global supply chain has been readjusting since 2018 when the Trump administration was in power. And when Biden came, he made it clear that he's not going to stop this policy. And he had actually raised tariffs for some specific products, especially those that are related to higher technology, especially on electrical vehicles, other AI equipment, and also on steel. So what we have seen here is a realignment of the global supply chain, which, of course, for countries in Southeast Asia and Thailand, we have seen more and more Chinese investments coming into our region in order to manufacture and export from the region to the U.S. instead of manufacturing in China and exporting to the U.S., which faces tariffs. So I think there will, be more of these relocation and also exporting out of our region to either the U.S. or Europe.
So as what you said, of course, Chinese companies, they are trying to find a way to cut off the risk from this tariff too, no matter to different part of the world, and especially come to Southeast Asia and Thailand too. But one of the risks that we have to see at this moment is Donald Trump's policy, because of course Donald Trump in each campaign right now saying that 10% increase from all over the world and 60% increase for Chinese products imported to the US. So how do you analyze this very, very aggressive policy here?
Well, I think there, mostly it's going to be a negative impact on world trade because this is actually a big, trade barrier between the U.S. and China, which are the two, biggest, largest economies and traders in the world. So definitely there are many negative impacts, but there are also positive impacts as well. So let me explain the negative impacts first. Well, negative impact is that, of course, when tariffs are hiked that high in for any imports to any country, the impact is that the prices of those goods, right, will be quite high in those in the country that imposes these tariffs. And in the short run, we're pretty sure that the U.S. cannot produce or manufacture these goods and services to replace the Chinese goods, as very quickly. So they will still need to import these Chinese products. So that means that the prices of these goods or services will be 60% higher than before. And this has implications on prices and inflation in the US and also on the policy rate, whether the policy rate will continue to be reduced in the next year or not. That remains a question if inflation rises in the US due to these tariffs, if President Trump actually implements them. So of course it will have an impact on the US economy and of course on China as well, because China will be able to maybe in the short run, export, but in the next months or so, they will definitely face a reduction in their exports to the U.S. because U.S. Buyers would try to seek new sources of goods and services that are cheaper than the ones that will be imported from China. So China itself will be affected. Its exports, will probably slow down. So it will definitely needs to find new export
Mm,
destinations. So do expect more Chinese products to flood into Southeast Asia and Thailand, and that will be an impact on Thailand directly. So those are the negative impacts that I see. But of course, there is a small positive impact as well, as I mentioned,
mm,
that when tariffs on Chinese goods by U.S. Government is as high as 60% if President Trump comes, but the ones on Thailand and other countries in the world, if President Trump's or if ex-President Trump's follows what he's been campaigning, is that he will raise tariffs to 10 to 20% for other countries, other than Chinese, China, that imports into that U.S. imports from. So that means that Thai products might be taxed, right? Might be taxed or collected tariffs upon about 10 to 20%.
mm,
But again, that will have a long-term impact on us because eventually our goods are more expensive in the U.S., right, by 10 to 20%. So U.S. producers will also try to produce these goods as their production cost might be
mm,
competitive with ours, with our prices in the U.S. But in the short term, as I mentioned, U.S. producers probably would need to seek other imports instead of from China. So Thailand might get that diverted sort of benefit, meaning that
mm,
U.S. importers might want to import more from Thailand to replace Chinese goods, which, by the way, Frank, we have seen that happening since 2018. I mean, if you look at the numbers, the share of U.S. imports from China has fallen by about
mm,
7 percentage points. That's quite a lot, right? Almost 10 percentage points. And it has increased its imports from Thailand by about 0.5%, and from the Vietnam by about 1 point something percent. So that is the short term sort of benefit we will get from the
mm.
diversion of U.S. imports from China to Thailand.
Yeah, it's what you said to your point. So we can always see opportunities when risks come. So no matter if US, if Donald Trump becomes the next president, they raise the tariff, but maybe Thailand has the opportunity to get one piece of cake even during this tariff war. But people, I think they are still concerned over the trade war between two superpowers, because some analysts, they say that the unemployment rate and even, of course, inflation on the ground will really affect people's life. Do you think that will come, no matter in Thailand or in Southeast Asia, the unemployment rate would increase if the tariff policy really gone so wild at that moment?
Yeah, I think the impact on inflation will be higher for the Americans, for the U.S., as
Mm,
I explained, because now imports from other countries into the U.S. will be much more expensive, right? From
mm,
China will be 60% more expensive than now. From Thailand might be 10 to 20% more expensive than now. So prices of goods in the U.S., will probably rise, especially in the short term when U.S. manufacturers still cannot produce these products to replace the imports yet. But in the medium term, maybe another year or so, they might be able to do so. But in the short run, I think the impact on inflation will be mostly on the U.S. On the
mm.
other hand, as you asked, what about for Thailand? I think for
Yeah.
Thailand, we will receive the impact as well, but probably not so much on the price side. But it probably will come through the fact that there will be more Chinese imports, right? That will compete with Thai products, because China can't export as much to the U.S. So they will export to other parts of the world, including Thailand as well. So I think that's the impact that we will see. And of course, Chinese products are actually cheaper than
Mm,
those that are produced in many countries, including Thailand itself. So in terms of prices, actually prices might not rise or might even decline slightly in Thailand as well if we allow Chinese imports to come in. So that's the impact that I see on prices here. But of course, there will also be investments, right? As I mentioned in the beginning, coming from China, coming from other countries, that are diverting their investments from China to Thailand as well. As we now see in the news, there are Taiwanese companies, Japanese, American, Europeans. They're also coming, and I think if the tariffs are hiked that high in the U.S. against production of goods in China that are exported to the U.S., I think there will be more relocations of manufacturing bases to Southeast Asia, including Thailand as well.
What you have pointed out is very important because, of course, we've seen those online platforms selling a lot of cheap Chinese product there to Thailand, and which already disrupt the market. So how the traditional retailing channels, they have to persist in this game is very important. And you talk about the foreign direct investment too, because of course BOI this morning just say that Thailand has gained the 10-year high FDI volume in 9 months this year. So it's very, very important. But how about, do you think unemployment rate would be a very critical aspect for Thailand if the tariff policy or tariff barrier between two countries really exists?
Right. So the employment or unemployment, I think, is affected because it has to do with how much we can produce, right, and how much labor do we need to produce those products as well. So, for example, as I mentioned, if there is going to be trade diversion, meaning like American importers will choose to import from Thailand instead of the products that they used to import from China, then that means that they need to be more production here in Thailand. So that's good for employment, right? Good for employment in Thailand. But of course, on the other hand, there are also the fact that there are relocations of companies, of factories, of businesses into Thailand as well. And they also need to hire more people as well. So again, I think the relocation of new companies and businesses into Thailand would create would have a demand for employment as well. But what I want to point out is I think when I look at the sectors that are now the trend in investments here in Thailand, they're not the traditional sectors anymore, right? They're not garments, they're not footwear, they're not basic agriculture, products anymore. So when I say there will be more employment, I mean there'll be more employment in sectors which needs different kinds of skills than before. So I think Thais would have to also be aware of that yes, there will be more demand for for employment, but our skills need also to be upgraded to meet those demand in those new industries as well.
Right. Do you think, last question, do you think Thailand can survive from this potential trade war or tariff barrier between two countries? Because of course we talk about the global supply chain transition to Southeast Asia too. So Thailand has that opportunity to grab the very big amount of volume of foreign direct investment. But how about the consumer prices that will be affected, and how about the purchasing power on the ground will be affected if the tariff barrier really exists and the trade war really escalates to next level?
Well, I think we will be able to survive, and we have survived since 2018 when
Yes.
President Trump has hiked. But I think what is more important here is that we will survive well or not will depend on how much we can adapt, right, to this alignment of the global supply chains, right? As I mentioned, there will be more locations of factories into Thailand, businesses into Thailand by foreign companies, but they need new skills. So if we possess those new skills in electrical vehicles, in biotechnology, or in electronics, right, these are the new sectors that a lot of investments are coming in. If you look at the Board of Investments figures, of the certificates, they issue to different sectors. These are the sectors, including wellness as well, right? High tech businesses. So, if we can adapt, our skills to these sectors, then of course, at least, right, our, workforce can survive. On the other hand, as I mentioned, there will also be a lot of competition coming from Chinese imports as well, right? So again, this has to do with the fact that we also need to adapt ourselves to this new situation. Can we become a part of their supply chain, for example, or can we actually benefit from their platform and sell Thai products, in the world as well, right? So again, we need to find new ways to benefit from this global supply chain readjustment.
Right. Thank you for your time, Dr. Kirida Bhaopichitr from Thailand Development Research Institute there. Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. More news to come.